All right, everyone. Nice to meet you. Uh, Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Ahmed Mumin. I am the executive director of the Seattle Rideshare Drivers Association. This is an association that advocate for Uber and Lyft drivers across Washington State. Um, we were founded in 2013, following when the Uber and Lyft came to business, and in particular the transportation business here in Washington State, and we have provided the Uber and Lyft drivers have provided more than 28 plus million trips in the last few years. This is the data that we have from 2024. But the number continues to grow because people they enjoy the services, and they want to see you know these clean cars and these benefits that they have for using Uber and Lyft. Uber and Lyft now is a is a brand name that everybody knows. Can we go to the next page?
Yes.
Um, why we work together? In 2024, the Washington State legislatures passed a bill. This was Bill 2078, and it was a bill that meant to give Uber and Lyft drivers a very basic support system, like every other workers, to give them basic leave, medical sick leave, and also workers' compensation. Uh, our association also was part of it, um, part of the legislation process, and part of the advocacy. We met with lawmakers and had to explain why it's so important for these drivers to be able to get those services. There was a lot of opposition from Uber and Lyft. They did not like that because it meant that they were going to be held accountable, and that the drivers would now be entitled to very important benefits, the unemployment benefits and paid family medical leave, and those very essential, hard, and just like they fought in California. They had a really very nasty fight with the labor and organizations in California, where Uber spent nearly $100 million for a local, ordinance, and really end up losing that case. So it was something that really, sent a shockwave across the country and the nation, where many states started thinking about this idea. Let's go to the next page, please. Um, yes, this is next page, please. Um, Applying for business license. So every individual and every person who is driving, who wants to drive for Uber and Lyft, must have a business license, and it's fairly simple. Before, it used to be that you go and apply by yourself, and through a process with the city of Seattle or King County. But now everything is incorporated into the Uber app. You can just go and apply on Uber app, and when you are in the process of applying for for becoming a for hire driver, the process is pretty much inside the system, and basically Uber will apply for you the license. They will make sure that you get the license, and They also pay the fees, and so you don't have to worry about separately applying for that. And also in Kitsap County, you know, below is the list of 4 counties out of Western Washington Peninsula, and you can call these numbers, and they would be able to assist you if you would want to apply separately. But you don't have to do that. As I said, once you go into the Uber app, you will be able to get all your information up there. You upload your driver license, you upload your insurance, and you upload your registrations and the information of your car. There will be a process there which is very simple. It's just clicking, just one click to apply for the business license for the state of Washington. Let's go to the next one. Okay, some of the cities and town may also require a separate business license. Yes, that used to be the case, but now the system has changed. There was some change in the system where there used to be something called TNC, Transportation Network, TNC, Transportation Network. I think is I don't remember, I don't recall the C, but now it's actually RTC. So instead of TNC, it's now R. The R stands for regional. So now one license, one process across the state. If you apply in King County, you could be able to work in Pierce County. And if you apply in King and Pierce County, you should be able to apply to work across, drive across the state. So, meaning that anywhere you go within the state, you can just open your app and be able to accept trips right there and then. So you don't have to worry about licensing from each and every county or region that you are in. Next page, please. Um, Here is, for example, in the city of Bremerton, any business with a physical location. Yeah, this is actually still we are in. It is, you can now pass many of these, and these rules has just just been changed recently. So one business license across you know across the board for all. Next page. So this is the link to register and apply for Uber. And basically, the process is that um, it will take sometimes for you to be up and running and being able to accept trips. Um, it can take up to 1 month to go through the process. And the first is that, and this is only for the for the passenger services. For food delivery, it's a little bit less time because with the food delivery, all you need to do is upload your, apply, have a car that's 10 years or less, and be insured and have registration, and you're pretty much good to go for the food delivery. And that's only if you want to do Uber Eats. Uh, but for passenger, there is another component, which is the background check. And that background check can typically take, you know, between a month or even more, depending on how many states or how many places you have lived in. So the background register, they also do a background every year, and they will do it automatically. You don't have to do it yourself, and you don't have to pay for the background check. And they use this company called Checkers, and basically checkers will uh, will take care of all the background. All they will need is your social security number and driver license, and the addresses that you've lived for the past 10 years, and the background check, typically they are looking for any type of conviction, criminal background, any type of crime that was committed and then went through the process, and then there was a conviction. If there is no conviction, then typically they will not count that. But they would only count, the crimes that there is a court, and or there was a prison time. So, and you know, sometimes there is it might probably take longer than usually. For some cases, I have seen in some individuals who end up waiting for 2 months, given their probably some ongoing situations or cases that is actually pending in the court system. Then they will probably not approve the application until and they will reach out to you to inform you that the reason your application is not approved for the background check is that. Yes, can we go to the next page, please? Okay, with Uber, once you are able to go through the process, you have a car that is 10 years or less, then you have your insurance, you have driver license, you have registration, you go through the background check, you go all of through the process, then you can now you can start accepting trips. And the way to get paid is fairly simple. There, when you are applying for the services, when you're applying to become a driver, they will have you actually put your bank information, and if that is you want a direct deposit, which these days, when they started, they would also send you a check in the mail. But now they're only doing, I think they have a couple of ways that you can be able to get paid. One is that you have your bank account, and you are able to provide, the bank account number and the routing number, and which institution you bank with, and you should be able to receive every week. They usually drivers get paid every Monday. So Monday evening, you would be able to be paid. But sometimes it might take longer, given every different institutions have different process, and it just depends with which bank are you banking with, and therefore, depending on how quick your bank does this. And also the other option that you have, which it's cash out. The cash out option is preferably. I was a driver. I drove for about 8 years. I have about 38,000 trips. I've been there. I've done it. I know so much about driving. I love the cash out. It's convenient. You pick up a trip. Sometimes you get a good trip. You want to cash out the money right there and then. You cash out. The trip is 80, $90. You cash out right there, and you use your money right there and then. Um, so depending on the circumstance, a lot of people like the cash out, and they usually just, some people would cash out immediately after the trip. Some would probably wait by the end of the trip, by the end of the day, when they have completed their shift, and they would cash out. Um, but these days, they have a little bit limit to cash out of how many cash outs. It used to be unlimited. You know, you could just uh, now they have a limit, and also now they started charging for the cash out. Basically, I think it's something like 50 cents or 75 cents. It's not that much. So you get charged, 50 cents every time that you try to. And I think they allow you up to 5 cash outs per day, and you know per day. So it's still not that bad. So, and some people, they might pick up 10, 15 trips and they want to cash out right away, to just keep their money safe on their side. And and also on getting paid. And you will notice that Uber and Lyft are very much similar. There are no major differences between these two companies. Uh, Everything that I have mentioned throughout my talk here, you will notice that, I'm just giving you the process because they are very identical. There are some very slight, process when you start driving. Um, Certainly, the app looks different. The two apps, the Uber and the Lyft app, and the functionalities, there is a little bit of difference. But in terms of the licensing process and getting ready to drive, it's pretty much the same. So, and the Uber, Lyft also has, get paid. You can cash out right there and then. And also, there is a customer service that is 24 hours, 7 days a week. You can always call the customer service. Um, they don't do a lot. The customer service, they will just help you with a little bit of technicalities on navigating the app. Sometimes the app can be very confusing and a little bit challenging because you are going, it's so much information inside the app. So you can call the customer service, and probably if you're missing a trip, let's say, and you say, okay, I'm missing one trip, I cannot find that trip. What should I do? You can call the customer service. And then sometimes, there are even other bigger problem. Maybe somebody puke inside the car. The drunk people puke inside the car, and you're like, what? You can also call the customer service. You don't have to do that. You can go through the app. There is a process where you can file a report, take pictures of the person's puke, and upload them, and they would usually pay you for cleaning. But there is also a limit. Used to be that there is no limit on how much you can charge people, but now there is a limit. Next, please. Okay, so this is now, I think we've covered that, the requirement, the minimum age. Minimum age is you need to be 21 and older in order for you to drive. Uh, you will need to be 21 and older. Can you guys hear?
Yep.
Okay. You need the requirement in terms of the documents. All you need is your driver license and proof of residence. You need to have you must have a valid Washington State driver license. You cannot have a different state license. You cannot um, have a driver license from Oregon and drive here. Uh, you have to, if you are new in the state, also, you need to. I think they require that you are around the state for at least a year before you are able to drive. And then insurance. Uber and Lyft, they do sell insurance. They have their own insurance. But you would you would still need an insurance for your vehicle before you are able to drive. So they do sell the insurance, and the insurance it's a bit complicated issue with the insurance. Is kind of you have to have your own vehicle insurance, and then they charge you for insurance also. And I think they charge you something like $1 per trip for the insurance. So that is kind of a bummer a little bit because you end up paying two different insurance. Um, there are some smart ways to be able to go around that, and that is by shopping around. Some of the companies do not allow you to drive for the rideshare companies, and they would explicitly tell you that no driving uh, for rideshare. They don't allow that, and it is very serious. Used to many drivers are getting caught up with deactivated, and they do get into an accident, and they think like, oh, I am covered, just to be told that you're not covered. A driver that I know lost a car worth about $60,000. He got into an accident and he did not tell his insurance that he owned. He was driving for rideshare, and the insurance, told him that they cannot cover him. And insurance and Uber also said they could not cover him because he was at fault. So that's another very serious issue that you have to pay attention. Sign up process, you submit documentation and photos. Uh, Try to use laptop. Uh, Many drivers, I tell them, don't use your phone so much. You can do so much with your phone, but there are times that you get caught up with the system that the system is just not designed to do some things with the phone. Then you will need to shift to a laptop or use your PC. I mentioned about providing information for the background check. The company is called Checkers. They're the one who do that, and depending on the circumstance of the individual, it might take different timing. Provide information and find out of car eligibility. The car that you are driving has to be 10 years or less. So we are now in 2026. Uh, you can only drive a car that is 2016 and going forward. Uh, they that rules apply to pretty much Uber and Lyft, but Lyft is a little bit lenient. I think they would accept for some of delivery, not passenger but delivery. They would accept cars which were 10 years and older. Next page, please. So yes, as I said, Lyft and Uber are all the same. They have pretty much very straightforward process, and they are all doing the same thing. Lyft is not so popular here in Washington. Um, Uber is. In California, it's a different story. In California, Lyft is actually more popular than Uber, and not even entire California. In some states in California, uh, Uber dominates the market. San Francisco, Lyft usually dominates the market. So this is how these companies, Uber and Lyft, the way they work is some cities they are there, they are working across the cities, they are doing so much, and they're picking up a lot of trips. In some cities, they're not actually doing that much. They're not picking up a lot of trips because um, the domination, the other company be probably dominating. and that also kind of put the drivers into a spot where the driver now, you know, doesn't have access to more trips as he would want when the company is not. And it's always good to have both of the app. It's good to have both Lyft and app because they will, you know, they complement each other. And you know, only at the airport you cannot. Uber has its own parking space at the airport, and Lyft has also its own parking space. You can when you are accepting trips for Uber, the app would not function at Lyft parking lot, and vice versa. So it is always good to have both of the apps because sometimes you know you pick up a trip from Bremerton, you go to Tacoma, and then you know you have your you have your app with Lyft, and it's preferably you use two different phones, which is good. And when you get to Tacoma, you have your Lyft. They can give you another trip coming back to Bremerton. So it's really helpful to have both of the apps because they will make your life so easy and you'll be able to make more money on that. Next page, please. Yes, Amanda.
Uh-huh.
Next page. Oh yeah, okay. No, no, no. Come back to the okay. Pay transparency. You keep 70% of passenger payment, and after external fees, yes, you keep 70%. It's usually different with Lyft on the pay transparency. Um, you know, Lyft uh, usually do less than they will. I think it's 50% with Lyft. Uber is 70%. But it's very tricky. The system that they use different method of charging the getting their cut, and this is so much. It's not as easy as we think it is. It's depending that you know where time you're picking up. If it's a high, you know, high time, and you know there is a surge, they will also want to get more. But typically, they would not go more than 70%. More choice. Yes, there are some more choices for Uber and Lyft. Yes, there is Women Plus Connect, where you are connected with a woman. If you're a female, you are connected with a female. It's an optional and features. You know, this this feature is fairly new. It's not it has not been there for a while, so it's passenger rating. Rating is another very sensitive matter. Um, what happened is, you know, you can get stars. You can get 1 star to up to 5 star. It is preferably that you get 5 stars, and Uber has Uber has uh, Uber has different classes of depending on how good you do. So if you are driving, if you have a very good stars and you're able to maintain, you know, you start by gold, and then if you make certain trips on the ratings, then you go to diamond, and then you go to platinum. And the benefits of this is when you're at gold, you don't see trips. Like you don't see where the passenger is going. They don't show you a lot of information. But when you go to Diamond, you get to see short trips, and you get to see the address of the person where they're going to, and you can assess the mileage, and if you want to take that trip to go. You're in Bremerton. If you are going, if you somebody called a trip to go to Seattle, if you are a gold person, you just have to blindly accept that trip and go to the destination, and lo and behold, the passenger is going to Seattle, and you're in Bremerton, and you're like, shoot, do I really need to go to Seattle at this time? When would I come back? And but if you have platinum, you can see the address, and you say, oh, I don't want to go to Seattle, so just skip that trip. And then if you become platinum, that is now everybody is also trying to get the platinum level. The platinum level, number one, it prioritizes you as a driver. You get more business, you get more trip. Number two, you can see the trip where the person is going, and you can accept it or you can reject it. Number three, the Uber does have some incentives. If you're a platinum, they usually would send you some vouchers for Subway sandwich, or they will send you a gas card gift, and I think up until now they also had changed how much cut they will take away from you if you're platinum. And all that depends on your ratings. The better ratings you have, the better trips you can make, the better, uh, the more money you'll be able to make. Next page, please. Yeah, we've already covered that insurance. Next page. Okay. How long does the application process? We've covered that. It will take you about typically 1 month. Both Lyft and Uber are the same. So 1 month, 1.5 months, depending on how quick your background check. Vehicle inspection, they will give you a list of places that you can go to be able to do your vehicle inspection. They do a vehicle inspection every year, just to see you, and you have to pay for it. I think it's $50 for the vehicle inspection, and they'll give you an address of mechanics around the state, and you just take your car, and they usually they have somebody who is certified by Uber and Lyft, and they'll walk around and look at your tires and brakes and look at your belts and make sure your steerings are all intact and everything. The car is reasonable. Background check, we already covered that. Next. Okay. So again, we are the Seattle Rideshare Driver Association, and our association is always open. You can always find us online, and we are always, advocating for Uber and Lyft drivers for better, working environment, for them to get better benefits, and it's our priority to make sure that uh, the drivers are safe when they're doing their work, and they are. We are there for drivers. If you have any questions, you can always send us an email about the association. Next, please. Um, so yes, this is the information I've shared. 2019, we provided 28 million trips. This is the drivers. Um, there is almost now nearly almost 40,000 plus Uber and Lyft drivers across the state who are either doing full time or part time, and we represent almost a lot of them. Next page. Driver Solidarity and Resource Center is another off ramp a branch of the Seattle Rideshare Driver Association. This is a resource center for the drivers, Uber and Lyft drivers, who want to get more help on a lot of things that they need help. Some of the drivers get deactivated. They come to the Driver Solidarity Resource Center. Uh, we meet there regularly and talk about our collective needs and issues that we have. We do multilingual workshops. Many of the drivers are immigrants and do speak several languages. Therefore, we have access to different languages to support the drivers. And we do rideshare customer service training, regularly, and for drivers who are interested in being one of the biggest problem with people getting deactivated with Uber and Lyft, it's lack of customer service. Many don't have good customer service skills, and that usually we do voter registration. We encourage people to vote, and we do legal and driver rights training. We basically have some resources for the drivers to be able to understand their rights when they are driving. Next. Um, so thank you so much. Now I am available to take any questions from anyone. Thank you.
We do have a couple questions in the chat,
Mhm.
so I'll read them off. Um, the first one, can you drive from Washington to Oregon for a client?
Yes, if yes, you can drive from Oregon to you can do that. Yes, you can pick up somebody at Vancouver and drop them at downtown Portland, or but you cannot pick up a trip from Portland coming back to Vancouver.
So you can go Washington to Oregon, but not Oregon to Washington?
Yes, because when you get to Oregon, as I said, you're in a different state.
I see.
They wouldn't allow you to pick up there because then you have to have license from that state, driver's license and all that.
And you could go Seattle to Portland if you wanted. It doesn't matter
Yes.
the distance.
No, it doesn't matter the distance.
Okay. Another question. Um, so if you're driving for Lyft and for Uber, would you need two phones? Two phones, one for Lyft, one for Uber, or would you want to have two phones, one personal and one for driving?
My suggestion is to have two phones. One would be your personal phone that you have it handy, and that's the one that's the active number that you can get phone calls from, and the other one would be for Lyft. One for Uber, one for Lyft. So again, you can be able to have one phone, but I prefer having two phones, and it works very conveniently for me. And I'm always I just put them there in my dashboard, and I put all my eyes in there. I could be able to receive a trip at any given moment from either or. And but if you have one phone, it's kind of a problem. Sometimes the trips, it only takes you like about, they give you something like 5 seconds to accept a trip. So if you're using one phone and the app is kind of off the screen, while you going to Uber app or the Lyft app, you've lost that trip. But if you have the second phone, you have the app, you know, at the screen. Immediately when the trip comes in, you grab and take. So
Okay.
preferably you need to use two phone. It's good.
And you can have Uber and Lyft on the same phone.
Yes, you can have Uber and Lyft on the same phone.
Can you use a leased car for Lyft?
Yes, yes, you can even rent a car these days. Uber has a contract with Hertz, and I think Lyft has a contract with Avis, and it's very simple. Also, it's not very complicated. It, you know, and sometimes for many people, They when you are new, just to test the if you like doing this, because this is not it's not for everybody. Um, it's not for everybody. This work is not for everybody. It's just this is the reality of this work is that you know too much driving, dealing with so many people, dealing with a lot of safety issues. So some people prefer to rent a car, lease a car from Hertz that's owned by Hertz, and then see if you like it, and then go on and purchasing your own car. And Lyft they give you the same option, so you pay weekly. Um, but you cannot just take the car and rent it like a regular car. It's not like a regular rental where you are just renting a car and you're going on and doing your own business and you pay weekly. No, these cars are strictly for business, for Uber and Lyft businesses. These rentals and the lease, you are supposed to make certain amount of trip per week in order to maintain that car. If you are not making that amount of trips per week, they will ask you to return the vehicles. Yes.
Okay. Next question. How much do Uber and Lyft charge for their insurance?
Um, Uber and Lyft, they charge. I think they charge $1 per trip, and they're pretty much the same. So every tip you pick up, they charge you $1.
So your insurance is paid for by the trip.
Yes, and that's optional. That is an optional insurance. If you don't want to have that, you can just keep your own insurance.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions. Feel free to come off mic, folks, if you have something you want to ask. I mean, come off mute.
I have a question on, you talked about how with Lyft delivery, you can drive with an older car. So when you're applying, are you applying just for Lyft or Lyft delivery, or is that something you can decide later?
Um, when you are applying, you can apply separately. You apply for Uber Eats, and you can decide later if you want to do both. Um, if you have an older car, then you can just start with Uber Eats, and then you can later decide if you want to add on. But one thing that you have to be cautious about is that um, when you start driving for Uber Eats, if you are deactivated from the platform, that means you lose that privilege of driving for the passenger one. So it's a decision that you want to take. Some people usually start with Uber Eats and they get deactivated. Something happened down the road, and they no longer have that privilege of driving for the passenger.
Thanks. And are there like good times to drive? Like what are the busiest type of hours during the week?
So Uber and Lyft, both of them, the apps these days are so sophisticated. They will give you a graph within the app that you would be able to keep up with the busy hours and the busy times and the area. They would even give you a map of the areas that you would want to be. Uh, for instance, when I was driving, I usually used to focus on the two rush hours. I would focus on, I mostly work in downtown Seattle, and I would focus on morning rush hour and the afternoon rush hour. And between that, I'll just take off and do my own things. That is the whole, idea for me, that flexibility. And then the weekends, uh, I would really want to drive. I usually drive in the afternoon, Friday afternoon. I would get in. Uh, I, for me, the way I used to do is Fridays, I wouldn't get in until probably 4 p.m. And then I would work whole night Friday, probably until morning, because it's more busier and I'd be able to make more money. So, that's my way. Everybody has his own way of doing things. But Uber and Lyft, both of them will give you some idea and hours and places, and they will also send you events planning. There will be an event calendar. They'll show you what's going on today, what's going on tomorrow. They will show you what's going on in a week. They will tell you, at the Key Arena, there is a concert at 6 p.m. People would be coming in, and then the concert will be finished at 10 p.m. So you want to get closer to the Key Arena area by 10 p.m. so you can start picking up some trips. So that all information is in the app.
Do you know to get from South Kitsap, like Bremerton, maybe Silverdale to the airport, um, is the price competitive with the airport or shuttles or any of the other shuttle services in the region?
No, the price is it's a bit higher.
Okay.
It's actually more higher, probably by 30-40%.
But Ahmed, the difference there would be you're only paying for the ride. So if you have multiple people, then Lyft and Uber would be cheaper, correct?
Yes, yes, yes. If you have multiple people.
In Kitsap County, we're a little bit sometimes rural in some areas. Can you talk about how do Uber and Lyft give you money? You talked about delay and like for things far away. Is there extra money involved for that for trips?
Yes, they do have something called prime rate pickup. And being in those rural area, they would tell you, okay, we're going to add a couple of few more bucks if you want to go pick up in a bit further area. Uh, but also there is a scheduled pickup now these days. With the scheduled pickup, um, you cannot do the prime rate with the scheduled pickup. Basically, the scheduled pickup, they will send you an alert and tell you that there is a trip tomorrow morning at 4 a.m. going from, Silverdale to the airport. Do you want to accept it? You accept that trip, then it is in your calendar, and you're expected to be there, in the morning to do that trip.
And would you get penalized if something happened and you couldn't make it? Would you get some kind of punishment from the
Uh,
app?
yes, there is usually some consequence of missing trips like that. Uh, I think they give you 3 strikes, and after that they might deactivate you from the platform.
Mhm.
So you don't want to accept a trip or schedule a trip that you're not going to. And then on top of that, it's going to hurt your ratings. Your rating
Mhm.
will significantly drop. uh, every trip you take does work with your ratings. So in that kind of circumstance, you scheduled a trip and end up not doing it. You're going to lose some big points. And, it probably would. Um, downgrade you from platinum to diamond, or from diamond to gold. Something like that is, you don't want to do that.
Mm. Any other questions?
So now that brings up a question for me on ratings. If there are like less drivers available, do ratings become less important, or are they always important?
Ratings is always important. Everybody you pick up rates you, and every ratings would either upgrade you or downgrade you. Every ratings would give you incentive, or you would lose some incentives. So everybody you pick up, if you're a gold, every trip you pick up, they give you points, and that points gets you closer to become diamond. And if you're in diamond, every trip you pick up, you're getting closer to platinum. And if you screw up one pickup, and you know things happened, you pick up somebody, and they're having the worst day of their lives, and they end up giving you bad ratings, it affects you. That is part of the unfair work of this thing, driving. So typically, what they Uber and Lyft, both of them, their community guidelines. There is a rules called the community guidelines that you have to read carefully, and they just tell you, listen, some people don't want to talk, don't talk. Some people want to talk, but don't go into details. Some people, they don't want to talk about politics, don't talk about politics. People want to don't Some don't want to talk about religion, don't talk about religion. Some people don't want to, you know, some people would become much complicated when they're in their car. They'll tell you probably the music is so loud and put the music down. So, you try to, you know, in my case, I just pick up somebody, and I always have one rules. My rules is hi, hi. Some people are social. I would want to keep the the conversation very minimal, because I am just trying to drop this person from point A to point B, and I just want to get done with that. I don't want to I don't want to know them. I don't want to know who they are. I don't care about who they are. That was my policy. I was there to make money and make living, and I did that for 12 years, and I was never deactivated. With more than 30 plus thousand trips, I have had very, very minimal problems with customers.
So if you're doing more trips, then a low rating would affect you less. Like you had 30,000 trips, so one low rating wouldn't be quite as devastating as when you're first getting
No,
started.
no, yeah. It gets to a point when you really do good. So one or two ratings would not necessarily affect you much.
And do you have any, this is personal, do you have any favorite stories from driving?
So much favorite stories, and one of my favorite story that sticks to my mind is picked up a group of youngsters from there was a Mariners game, and Safeco Field, and as we were driving, this guy was sitting in the back and just all of a sudden puked directly to the dashboard and to the window and everything, and we were all shocked. And the guy was apologetic, and he said, he had too much garlic fries, and you can imagine how much the car was, disaster. you know, garlic would not go away and the puke, and took me a long time to to recover from there. Um, those are the type of stories that that stick with me for a long time.
And did Uber or Lyft, whoever you're driving for, like help pay for the cleaning then?
Yeah, yeah.
You can get the
They
sent out.
yes, they typically would pay about $300 for the cleaning because in this circumstance, it's a deep cleaning. But I don't know how deep can you go with garlic. Sometimes it's just it doesn't go away. It always garlic is that kind of herbs that will always stick there, and just the smell would it takes time. And if it goes into your dashboard and goes into the heater, when you turn the heater is there, when you turn the air condition, the whole car smell garlic. And yes,
But that is rare. So
that is very rare. That is so much rare. But typically, um, puking inside the car is another problem in the weekends. Friday night, Saturday nights, you should you should have some backup plan, some sort of these days, um, it used to be that when you were working a Friday night and something like that happens, you're done for the night. You just shut off the app and go home because some people, they puke alcohol and food and just nasty, very bad puke. The whole car will be just messed up. But these days, I've noticed that a lot of drivers, they have like a bucket of cleaning materials because they don't want to, you pick up, you just came in at late in the evening, like 8 o'clock. You just starting your shift and you're planning to probably hit the road and make 200-300 bucks tonight. You're thinking tonight is my night. I gotta hit my quarter. I gotta do the I gotta hit it. I gotta probably take it to $300. And then your first customer, you have that circumstance. Peek inside the car. Now what should I do? Should I go park the car and put a report, or should I just, you know, put my gloves on and bleach and spread and clean the car and hit the road? So usually, yeah, people do that. They will take pictures. They will file the report, but they will clean it. They will clean the car, and if it's very bad, then next day they would go to deep cleaning. Um, but if it's not that bad, then they will just pocket that money so that they to continue the night.
Maybe the passenger could use the bucket instead of the dashboard.
Yeah, you cannot imagine when people get drunk. It's like a split second. They between the time that they are coming and the time that they are. It's like and some people don't talk. They're like they're so drunk they can't even explain themselves, and it happens that that they're caught up.
Can you turn down someone if you get accept a ride and then you go to pick them up and they can't, they can't stand, or you think they're going to cause problems? Can you decline the ride and then let Uber know so that
Uh,
you don't get a penalty?
um, so if you have a good reason, when you were picking up somebody, you felt the person was threatening and did some verbal thing, or somebody's actually carrying a weapon, or somebody has something to terrify you, you can decline that trip, but you have to immediately send an email.
Mhm.
Because if that customer ends up complaining to Uber and Lyft, then now they will want to know why did you cancel that trip. And especially some people would write a very nasty email immediately after you accusing you all kind of accusation. He came there and he didn't even wait, and you know, so it's if you do something like that and you feel like this person is not the right match for me, then yeah, you cancel your trip, but immediately notify Uber by email right away. And when you do that, when you cancel the trip, it's very convenient. You can immediately write your comments there on the email. There is a part that they will give you an option to do that. If you pick up somebody and the person is an asshole and just they made your whole trip hell, and they were just bad, you can also have an option of unmatch this person. You can say, okay, I don't want to ride with this person ever again. They will do that. They'll tell you, okay, so and so, you're not going to be matched again.
I'm curious, you mentioned like hundreds of dollars in a night, and I wonder if your drivers that aren't in downtown Seattle make that. Like I know we'll have prime times, like people going maybe to catch the ferry for a game in Seattle or a Friday night, but do people outside of Seattle make that much in a shift?
Yes, these days, yes, because Uber is very popular across the state. So you don't have to be in Seattle. A lot of people are using Uber across the state, everywhere. So if you are willing to, be out there and prepare to pick up trips, you should be able to make good money in your area. I love working that area. Starting from Tacoma all the way to Bremerton area, uh, Saturdays and Friday nights. I love it. You get back and forth trips coming from Bremerton. They're going to nightlife places. Picking up from Tacoma, taking them to somewhere in uh, those small places that they're going to spend the night, and then you probably, if you're in the area, you can get a trip coming back. Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Hmm.
Can the driver carry like pepper spray or a stun gun?
Yes.
Sort of thing?
Yeah. You can carry a pepper spray and stun, and protect yourself with those type. But Uber and Lyft the apps are very sophisticated these days. The technology is so advanced, and if you feel threatened by a passenger, there is on the app there is an SOS. You can just when one time I had an issue with this passenger. He was just on the phone yelling and jumping up and down. I don't know what was going on. And I tapped the SOS, the emergency 911, and literally within 3 minutes, there was a state patrol following me. And he said, you need to stop. And I stopped, and he asked us to come out of the car and explain what was going on. And then, I just told him I felt this guy, who's jumping and he wouldn't stop. You know, he was jumping. So yeah, but you can protect yourself. You can have all of this, anything that you think, would you use paper spray or, it's okay.
Okay. I have one other question.
Hmm.
You said you had a lot of trips from like Bremerton to Seattle and back and forth. If you're based out of Bremerton, does the app know that you're based out of Bremerton, and so it would try and find you a trip back to
Yes,
Bremerton? Okay.
yes. The app is very sophisticated, and also there is there is something called destination on Uber. and Lyft has it too. Destination is when you pick up somebody from Bremerton and you take them to Tacoma. You can destinate yourself back to Bremerton. So the system will know that you're not accepting any other trip other than trips that's going to Bremerton. If you're lucky enough, sometimes you might connect with somebody and take them back. But the good thing is, even if they don't give you a trip that is going directly to Bremerton, they will probably give you a trip since you're heading, for instance, you're going toward west from Tacoma. If you're going toward west, the system will recognize that you are intending to go to west. So it will probably give you a trip, like a 3-4 minutes trip toward your destination. And if you want to stay in that area, then it will give you another trip to get you closer to Bremerton. So the system knows that, okay, I'm done. I don't want to go further. I don't want to go to Puyallup. I don't want to go to any other area. I don't want to go to Seattle. I want to go back home. I want to get, toward that. So there is that feature, and you can only use it twice per day. So usually you can only use. So for me, I would only use it in the day when I start. I'm getting out from home, and I'm planning to go to downtown Seattle. And from my house, I would use the destination. Then I'm lucky enough, it gives me a trip to go to downtown Seattle. And then at night, when I'm done, I would use the destination from Seattle. I want to go back home. I'm done for my shift. I don't want to stay longer. So I would put my destination, and then it will take me, toward my destination. It probably, would not take me, home directly. I live in Renton. It might not take me to Renton. Sometimes I might get a trip, take me to the airport. It's better than me driving empty. So at least I'm coming close to Renton. Yes. So I want to thank you guys for joining us. Really appreciate for your time. And you have our contact. If you have any questions or on the process, would be more than happy to answer.
Yes, and just so everyone knows, you will be getting a copy of the recording and of the PowerPoints.
Thank you so much. Appreciate.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks so
Thank you, Ahmed.
much. Take
All
care.
right. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, thank you.